What's going on, everybody? Today I'm going to make a video that's a little bit different than previous videos that I've done, and this one's going to be more about the political atmosphere and how US politics influence the automotive market through safety regulations, environmental standards, trade policies, incentives, and bailouts. These interventions is often a response to a crisis, whether that's a shock to the oil industry, economic recessions, or climate concerns. Ultimately, this affects the vehicle design, costs, sales, and the manufacturing locations. It also changes the climate for competition as well. So let's go through a chronological order of events that has happened in the US automotive market and how politics influence that. One thing is for certain, there is one huge political influence, the National Traffic and Motor Safety Act, and this happened in 1966 under President Johnson. This in itself has mandated the first safety standard. For example, seatbelts.
Buckle up for safety, buckle up. Buckle up for safety, always buckle up.
Also, padded dashboards. This was the first time that it shifted the automotive market voluntary to mandatory. It did raise costs on vehicles because we have to add extra safety equipment to the vehicles themselves, but this also reducing fatalities on the road and increased consumer trust. Say what you will, but this was probably one of the best changes. Could you imagine if cars that were built in the 50s were still built the same way they are today? It would be a nightmare. It would be a travesty. A lot of people would be dead. If you compare a modern car to something built in the 50s and early 60s, you might be shocked as far as the results. This introduced crumple zones eventually. Yes, of course, the car is totaled, but a car, at the end of the day, I'd hate to say it, a car is just a car. And a car accident you can walk away from, well, that's just the best ideal situation for anyone. Now, one of the most controversial influences on the automotive market from U.S. politics is probably going to be the Nixon
Each of
era.
us all across this great land has a stake in maintaining and improving environmental quality.
1970, the Clean Air Act. Under Nixon, strict emissions control was happening. They wanted 90% reductions by 1975 in this act. This forced the use of catalytic converters and also forced unleaded fuel. Cars were riding around in leaded fuel, an abundance of cars rolling down the road, and you have a lot of foot traffic. These people are at risk of getting poisoned by your fumes. It also spurred some innovation tactics by the automotive manufacturers to say, what can we do about this? This was the earliest and probably the first environmental regulation, which introduced the EPA. That's a naughty word, EPA. Today, the EPA has such an overreach, it's now starting to piss people off. Thank God for SEMA, they actively oppose a lot of the overreach that the EPA does today. We don't even like to say EPA in a sentence in the car community. You go to one car show and someone says, well, I don't think the EPA would really like that. Moving on, so fast forward to 1975. Under Ford, not the company, President Ford.
I'm a Ford, not a Lincoln. Great.
We introduced corporate average fuel economy. We'll call it CAFE for short. How about that? CAFE standards required fleet-wide efficiency improvements.
Regardless of who is profiting, we're all going to pay because this country runs primarily on oil.
Now, I would have to say personal opinion of mine on this one on CAFE. We have actually introduced levels of innovation, bar none. We were able to look at an engine much differently, and one of the biggest triumphs out of that, coming up with innovations to make an engine more efficient while still having a lot of power. If you look at the modern day sports cars, even look at the Corvette, look at any BMW M series, highway mileage is pretty high. And that kind of work is highly attributed to some of these policies that have been put in place. But it was actually a good solution based on what the current times were bringing. And that was the oil crisis itself. Because in doing so, reduced our oil dependencies. Ironically enough, what this did was favor the Japanese market for imports. Fast forward to 1981 under President Ronald Reagan.
A crucial piece of legislation and a triumph not just for freer and fairer trade, but for the legislative process itself.
Reagan introduced voluntary export restraints. on Japanese imports. Under Reagan, this limited Japanese vehicle imports to better protect American-made cars. Sure, it boosted sales for U.S. auto manufacturers, but this only temporarily worked. The Japanese automotive market was a huge competitor in fuel efficiency.
The #1 gas mileage car in America. Honda will again be leading the industry in 1984.
Once the likes of Toyota and Honda found out that maybe we would just build manufacturing plants in the United States, and that's what they did. But it also brought a lot of jobs to the United States job market. It was like fighting against Godzilla, no pun intended. Fast forward to 1994, under President Bill Clinton. Under Clinton, we had the North American Free Trade Act, Agreement, something like that, NAFTA.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
And this eliminated most, if not all, the tariffs from Canada and Mexico, and in turn boosted a lot of the manufacturing in Mexico, and ultimately reshaping the North American manufacturing, because even though this dropped the cost for American cars, this boosted production in Mexico and Canada, but also the other side of that is that we lost a lot of jobs. All right, fast forward to 2007 under President Bush. Not much really happened during the Bush era as far as influence to the automotive market, except for one thing. Bush actually raised CAFE standards to be at the mark of 35 miles per gallon by 2020. This set the stage for long-term efficiency gains amid rising oil prices at the time. So we can quickly fast forward over to 2008 under Obama. It was kind of in between the Bush handoff to Barack Obama presidency, and this was during a time that anybody my age or older remembers this very vividly. I was young and just in the job markets too, and the recession that we had was an insane hit to the economy. And what happened during that time? We had the whole Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac situation, which I won't get into because this is a car channel, so that's what we're not. But what we did do is bail out GM and Chrysler for a total of $80 billion. With a B. Then on top of that, Obama added what was called cash for clunkers.
News for car shoppers tonight. A new government incentive, cash for clunkers, can put thousands of dollars in your pocket.
And this was a stimulus package per se, but what this cash for clunkers system did is that put the mercy of the United States taxpayer to be basically funding this. To be fair, there was a lot of them that that car probably did not belong on the road. Now, while this boosted short-term sales, it also did protect 1 million jobs, roughly. Obama set the CAFE target to having it be 54.5 mpg by 2025.
And somebody said, well, what would you do? What can you do? So easy. I drop a 25% tax on China. And I said to somebody that it's really the messenger. The messenger is important. I could have one man say, we're going to tax you 25%. And I could say another, listen, you motherfuckers, we're going to tax you 25%.
Once Trump took office, he put a freeze on CAFE targets. And this was around when the CAFE target was achieving 40 miles per gallon, and imposed tariffs on steel and aluminum goods. And this, strangely enough, eased burdens on internal combustion engines, primarily on trucks and SUVs, resulted in a short-term boost in sales. So whether it was good or bad is up to anybody's opinion. But I found it strange that as the government progressively got involved, it was strange to see a presidency that came into play to roll it back.
The Inflation Reduction Act does so many things that for so many years, so many of us have fought to make happen.
Then in 2021, President Biden introduced the Inflation Reduction Act. And this Inflation Reductions Act, we'll just call it an IRA, not a retirement fund, introduced $7,500 in tax incentives if you were purchasing an EV. And this absolutely intensified the EV market. But then you had talking heads such as Elon Musk saying on record, we need to slow down. And I would think at some point you have to listen to the people that are making the cars to say, I don't think this is going to work. But alas, that was it. We just kept moving forward with that. That's what we're doing now. So then fast forward to early 2025. And this is during Trump's second term.
Donald Trump. It's the Donald! Oh my God!
25% of tariffs were introduced on imported vehicles and parts. And this actually did more harm than good. What it did was raise the car cost anywhere between $3,000 to $5,000, maybe even more, per vehicle. It absolutely disrupted imports. Now, we kept the $7,500 tax credit, but that only now applies to new EV vehicles. Now, if you purchase a used EV vehicle, that is now no longer $7,500. You are now tax credited up to $4,000. So this sort of slows down EV adoption into the United States market, and it also shifts demand for even more efficient internal combustion engines and hybrids. And now let's talk about something more recent. December 3rd, 2025. The Trump administration unveiled Freedom Means Affordable Cars, whatever the hell that means. It eliminated EV mandates. The claim is that it'll save $109 billion, with a B, dollars to the American people. That will lower prices on vehicles alone. But I really don't know how that's going to happen long term. I don't know what the long-term effects of that is. But as of December 17th, these latest changes have provided deregulation reliefs, primarily on trucks and SUVs. Overall, politics create volatility in the automotive market. And while some of these regulations from the mid-60s all the way up to the 80s were probably necessary at some point and drove innovation to create something bigger, better, more efficient, why did we have to keep beating the dead horse? Why did we have to keep regulating everybody on everything? There is never some sort of long-term solution. It is always looking at a piece of what the short-term crisis is and then coming up with a short-term solution, but in turn hurts the market and the people in the long term. Kind of messy business. So let me know your thoughts. Should the US government stay out of the US auto market, or are they doing some sort of good? Want to know my take? Thanks for watching.